You don't own the company. You own shares and you trade in those shares and you derive benefits by way of dividends. Full stop. So let us be clear that we are not valuing, Safaricom. We are valuing shares in Safaricom. And so it is away from the company and, Honorable Chair, the assets. But Nididi, I need you to share with us on something. When we enacted the Companies Act in the 11th Parliament, you were not yet with us. I was at the center of it. We had a section 975, subsection 2B, in which we said any foreign company in Kenya to be registered here had to let go at least 30% shareholding. Was it to the government or to the local people? There had to be that percentage. Out of the idea that we needed to attract foreign investment in 2016, you remember, an amendment was brought, and when that amendment was brought, we deleted that provision. Now leaving these shares open to everybody. If I were to eat your mind, thinking about the place of Safaricom, do you think we should recommend a reinstatement of that provision? So that when we have strategic companies or corporations like Safaricom, there is the limit is set. Even if we are not to say local, we say the government shall have, on behalf of the people, at least this percentage, whether that, because I tend to think, Honorable Chair, that this could be what could have informed our having 35 then. It could not go below 30. What is your thinking around that? But tied to that, what stops Vodacom from going to the market now that these shares are listed and incrementally, buying the shares to the level, that they want, so that we are justified in saying this is not the way to go. The shares are listed, and by the way, they will be buying not at 34, but at 28, 29. What stops them now from going there? And if they were to go, do you measure the loss to the country in terms of what we seek to do? On the transaction cost, as advocates, we have the advocates' remuneration order. And Honorable Nidid, it will tell you, on this kind of transaction, you will charge this least amount. Of course, we don't have upper limits. So the fees a lawyer charges are guided. People keep speaking about 0.5 to 1.5. We were told even by the CS Treasury and other people. I'm not a finance guy. Is there an instrument under which this is prescribed so that we can look at it? But I agree with your presentation that, by the way, the higher the volume, the lower the commission. Stockbrokers, we will investigate, later on. I end by commending you and requesting that either way, let the smoking gun be seen and let the bullet be shot. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Kirwa. Then Paul, members, if some colleague has asked a question, let's not repeat the question, please, for the sake of time. We have other stakeholders waiting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to ask this question. And thank you, Nyoro, for coming up as a Kenyan to just give this presentation. And we have to make it clear that Nyoro is a friend or a colleague to all of us here. So that is why this presentation was very, very important. And Nyoro is not just a regular member of parliament. He was the chair of that. So he has so much information pertaining to this particular issue. Nyoro started saying he wants to know how it was validated that the stock is at 34, not 29. He gave us so much information about the sale of the company, gave us so much information about several other companies. My question to Didi, because the CEO of Safaricom sat right there where you are. The CS of Treasury sat right there where you are. They made a specific presentation like what you have done. We asked them questions, the same questions that we're asking you, and they gave us answers. They were very clear on how they went about valuation. Safaricom told us they cannot interfere when a seller and a buyer is present when it comes to stocks. If a buyer says, I want to buy these stocks, and a seller says, I want to sell these stocks, Safaricom has no say in who exactly or to stop it. Now, you are telling us that we should have all Kenyans come together and agree on who is going to evaluate this sale before it's done. That is not the case. We are told Vodacom gave us a premium price for the future dividends of the country, or of the stock and all that. So, Mr. Didi, as a colleague, and who has so much information about the government of Kenya, and who has information about this fund that we are going to set up, infrastructure fund. Of course, the money will come probably at the moment. If it is concluded before it's formed, it will go to another fund. But I want to ask you, do you think that all Kenyans would have sat down and agreed on the price rate? You know very well that Kenyans, there is a way of evaluating the stock and agreeing on how to sell, and there is nothing that was wrong on this sale. There is nothing. If you have information that there is something wrong that was done, then be on record and tell this, because so many people are following. So many people are just listening on your presentation today. So just tell the people, this is your opportunity to actually tell the Kenyans something went wrong and this is what went wrong. But based on what we know, the CEO was there, Safaricom, the CS was there, and several stakeholders have come and just did their presentation the way you did. So my question to you is, do you really think there is a smoking gun in the country? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Mine would be brief and straight to the point. Thank you so much, our colleague. You really made a powerful presentation, which has really enriched me, and I believe it has enriched the committee. But I would just like to ask, Honorable, that you seem to say that you have no problem with privatization. Yes, and you have a problem with evaluation. And Honorable Kaluma has mentioned it, but I was just feeling like I really wish you would have given us what you think was best in terms of valuation, because you've talked of us having maybe more 150 billion, 100 billion, so I don't know, in your computation, because they have floated at 34 shillings, as per you, how much would it be? And you've also put it so well that while you were in the corridors of power, there were some of these things which were floated. And in your view, if we'd have split into three, would have gotten more. So as at that time, are you able to give us the figures that as at that time, because you said there were even more, how much are you looking at? And what exactly happened as at that time? What hindered the sale as at that time that probably now is okay? So thank you. I think that is my main concern.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Manduku.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you,
The members kindly want to, if we can get straight to the question so that because of
Honorable
time, we are.
Nyoro, for your insightful presentation. I think I'll be straight to the point and I'll not repeat what has been asked. First, I happen to be an architect and we have our scale of fees. Cap 525 prescribes the minimum payable to architects. To the best of your knowledge or recollection, is there a minimum payable to stockbrokers by law so that we can deal with this matter conclusively? Number two, on the split of Safaricom, this discussion was mentioned by CS for National Treasury, and he argued that if you split it into 3 entities, then you lose the leverage. You increase costs by having distinct entities. But I also know from my own research and experience world over, where we've had a split of giant telcos, the residue entities have not done very well. And I'll give you an example. We had General Electric splitting into, I think, aviation, medical, and energy. The aviation sector never picked up. We had Johnson & Johnson splitting into pharma and medical. We've had HP splitting. We've had, I think, Toshiba and other companies in the world. So, given that Safaricom is dominant, don't you think that splitting it into distinct entities then will create avenues for other competitors to cannibalize the small entities? Secondly, how efficient will splitting be given that they all rely on the same infrastructure, network infrastructure? And then how will we have to deal with that then, given that we'll have shareholding in the 3 entities? Will the shareholding be evenly spread out, or will we opt to hold one entity and release the others as a government? I think that needs to come out clear. It's it. The third question, and I think you brought a very important dimension here on cross-listing. What has been the hindrance that all along a very successful company that like Safaricom has not cross-listed in other countries, and you gave London as an example. And what route would we take as Parliament to ensure that this cross-listing is achievable without any legal hiccups? My last question, what is your experience and what is your comment on double layering, where we have Vodacom owning Vodafone and then Vodafone owning part of Safaricom? Don't you think it would have been easier if we eliminated this layering, multiple layering? Because someone came here and insinuated that this layering could be suspect. Thank you, Chairman.
Members, let us allow the Honorable Nidid to, there were so many questions from the members to respond, then we'll do another second round. So yeah, but let him respond and then we'll give the remaining members the other option. So go ahead, Mheshimiwa Nidid.
Thank you very much, Chair. With your permission, I have all the time when your time permits, but I'll be brief so that we also give other members an opportunity to also interact on this matter. Honorable, you asked many questions, but I'll be brief in response so that I know you have afternoon sessions. You talked about when I was in budget chair and what I did for Safaricom share price. And I don't even know what to answer you. Because what does a budget chairman in Kenya has to do with the market prices of shares? There's nothing I do. I'm a market taker, just like any other Kenyan. And on that matter, respectively, Honorable Aliko, you are my brother. This issue came up when I was there, and I gave my voice.
And my voice is as I have given the committee, because there's nothing to hide. The beauty about this conversation is that even the people who have appeared before you here, the technocrats from the National Treasury, they know the things I'm saying here are the correct ones. That was what they were also saying themselves. But because of the urgency of wanting to sell this share now and not tomorrow, that is my answer, what I think has changed. Then you asked about the valuation of, in terms of KCB being the transaction advisor. And I agree with you about there is the base price and there is the upper limit. In fact, you can change nothing. You know, in a business transaction, if Honorable Maduku is an architect and he wants to do his work for me for free, that is his business to do that. My business as a Kenyan is to look at where we are approaching the ceiling, not the floor. The ceiling is more important to me because that is where you put in the other costs in quote. And in this matter, Honorable Aliko, through the chair, I only have one direct thing that you need to do to safeguard the Kenyan interests. Even if KCB gets 3 billion, it is okay. Just do one thing. Ask them, do you have a stockbroker's agent? And they do it in writing. Why am I saying so? That is how deals are cut. And we are here to protect public resources so that instead of the deals being cut to go outside of the public purse, this money to be directed into building roads and other things. So if this committee gets that comfort in writing, then we will have a follow-up document that if KCB ever pays anyone in the name of being an agency, then this house will ask them, an agency for what? Do you need any agency to go to KCB to introduce a Safaricom stake, where the chairman is already a representation of government? That is my take on Abu Aliko.
Point of order, Chair. Safaricom is a business entity. So whatever it does in terms of transactional advisor, it is part of its business. So even if one of the main shareholder in KCB is doing another transaction somewhere, it will not give for free. It will charge transactional advisor fee as part of its business. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Aliko, we need a whole day.
Point of order. Respond to the chair, not to Aliko. And I'm the chair now.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, because I'm answering Honorable Aliko, just to put it in perspective, through the chair, I'm answering Honorable Aliko's question. I think we need a day to first orient ourselves onto what we are doing in this hotel today in this session. Because Safaricom PLC has nothing to do with a buyer and the seller, Honorable Aliko. They have nothing to do with that. And I thought the CEO was here yesterday, and he said it in the language we cannot understand. Safaricom has nothing to do with the transaction between the government of Kenya and our buyers. And therefore they have no business to appoint a TA, a transaction advisor. It is only the National Treasury who actually brought up the issue of KCB, not Safaricom. And therefore, I'm not talking about Safaricom, I'm talking about the National Treasury because they should be answerable to us as Kenyans. So my question is simple, and I gave my proposal. There are some things you can achieve by just doing one thing. You can hit 2 birds with 1 stone. To remove any darkness and gray areas, let KCB do in writing whether there is a stockbrokers agency attached to this transaction. You'll have cured everything else. Yes. You talked about transaction cost and you give for OECD countries. Kenya is not an OECD country, remember? Kenya is a growing economy. So it's the right parameter for the wrong jurisdiction. Some are repeating themselves, but you also talked about shares came down after government invested in Ethiopia. Precisely. The shares of Safaricom were trading at 45 shillings around 2021. And the valuation of Safaricom PLC then was 1.8 trillion shillings share. Now we are coming at a level where the same Safaricom has already invested in Ethiopia, colossal amounts of money, but you are valuing it at 2/3 of the then price. And then you are told, no, you have to keep quiet, you are basing it on the market price. That question is next, Honorable Karuma, I'll highlight it. Honorable Chair, Honorable Karuma talked about, he talked about a smoke gun or a gun smoke. And I am disappointed, to be honest, that a country losing 100 billion shillings is nothing important to any Kenyan. I am disappointed about that. The condition precedent alone, which I gave here, Kenya is losing 100 billion.
Chair, point of order, please. Honorable Nyoro, yesterday we had civil society. In fact, they are even more concerned than you are. In fact, they were saying that we should not even be here, if I recall what they said. So, as a point of information, many other Kenyans are as concerned, if not more, than you are. So I think, take it easy.
It's in good faith, the Honorable Maduku, through the chair. What I'm saying is, the question was directed to me.
The tone that you are using, Honorable Nyoro, through the chair, is what is taking that, like, there is nobody caring. You know, this is a committee of parliament, and you are a member of parliament, you understand. We are listening, and then thereafter, this committee will retreat and make a judgment on the reports, including what you are going to do.
Through the chair, Honorable Ruto, you know, I give my presentation, and I pinpointed direct specific areas. Then if you come to me and tell me, stop talking now, it means you are choosing what to listen to. And I don't think that is fair, because I gave correct figures, what we are losing, the parameters we may do for valuation. How would you be waiting for me to give a smoke gun?
Mheshimiwa Nidid,
Yes.
I think let's make progress. What he was expecting, you did say maybe you'd mention names and all that. That's what we more or less refer to. But the figures you gave, I think, is also in there. So that's perfectly in order. Thank you.
Let me not even, Chairman, I'll not go to that so that we don't.
Thank you so much.
We don't degenerate. But with humility, what I presented, I feel is very important, because we are losing so
There
much
is no
money.
doubt it's very important. That's why we're all here, and I'm sure you took your time to research, do all the works that need for you to appear before this committee, and even giving your time to come and give your views to this committee. I think it's a huge sacrifice for a member of parliament. So no doubt that you put in a lot into this. And that's why we want to hear you, and we don't want to digress so that we lose the main reason that you're here for. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll not go to anything that would harm the ambience of this meeting. In terms of valuation, Honorable Karuma, through the Chair, was more about valuation, and he asked whether I can come up with a specific figure. It is possible, yes, but this is the point. It is still subjective. You get what I mean? My question is not about whether I have a figure or the other person has. My question is about the process of getting into that figure. The figure that we are giving, by all contexts, even the other shareholders who appeared, we cannot agree it is grossly undervalued based on the presentation that you had and the valuation parameters that has been put forth. And again, there is one way we can strike that. And I like Honorable Karuma, Honorable Chair. He was telling me, tell us how to do it, but don't mention. In fact, I wrote it. How can we come up with a valuation, the right valuation, but he also put a rejoinder, but don't tell us about competitive bidding. It's like saying, please tell me how I can cure malaria, but don't talk about malaria queen. I don't know what to say on that, because I think the best way to realize this value is to subject this transaction into global competition. When you have people bidding, and I give examples which I don't want to go into, of rare bingo, where I didn't read, I was a participant. A share that was 27.5, just like the current valuation of Safaricom by the time of announcement. But we ended up pocketing 85 shillings. Why? As I answer that question about Honorable Karuma, You know, I was listening also to the National Treasury and other people talking about market. Vodafone can buy from the market. It is fine. Why can't they go and buy? I also threw the same question. It is for one answer. When you are dealing with a block sale, you input a huge premium based on availability. Today, if I wanted to buy Safaricom shares, only 2% of Safaricom I will not get in this market. So you have to do it an off-the-market transaction. And the more the reason when it is an off-the-market transaction, it comes with a huge premium. It's not Safaricom that is first to do that. The last 1 year we have had Baburi being bought by Amazon. If you look at the price 1 year prior to the day of exactly 1 year prior to the day of transaction, Amazon paid 175% upside. But those giving examples are talking about 6 months for convenience, because the market already knew there was a transaction and the share had already started to respond. I talked about Rea Vipingo. I can talk about Kenokobi. Kenokobi also was listed and also had a block sale. Block sales across, that is what happens. And now what you do in the block sale, you go outside the market. You know, the market is already an auction for small-time shareholders like me and you, where we go buy 100 shares today, 200 shares today. The market provides liquidity. When I need to pay school fees, I go and sell the shares. And therefore, the market, what it does, it assigns the value for the retail shareholders market. However, when you are doing a block sale outside of the market, and Safaricom, I'm repeating, is not the first one, they generate humongous premiums. And, Chairman, this is my question. If there is nothing to hide, if we are above board, why can't we just, we will not even spend money to advertise. We'll just signal to the market. Safaricom is on sale. We open bids for only 2 months. I can guarantee you, Chairman, that 2 or 4 billion will get even an upside of 350 billion for the same stake. And I'm basing on the P ratios that I gave of different telcos and different companies of that nature. Now, as Honorable Kaluma talked about 30%, the company's role, and I agree with him. Personally, in terms of my political leaning, I would actually not advocate for an amendment of that, because I believe in unfreed capital flows. For economies to grow, don't give quotations, especially when you need money. You know, when we institute a law on capping 30% on Safaricom, you can't do a law singularly for one company. You do it blanket for all the companies. So my leaning, economically speaking, I will not advocate for the change of law in terms of pushing international investor outside. I would actually advocate for a free flow of capital. That's how South Korea did, China did. Some of the brands we talk about, including China, all of them, Alibaba, that was American money, BYD, that was Berkshire Hathaway's money at some point. If you go to even Singapore, Keppel, they grew on other people's money, DSB Bank, other people's money. So I believe in an economy where let capital flow, and especially inwards, not outwards. The other thing is the same Honorable Karuma asked. You know, this is the confusion we are being we may get into. Oh, Vodafone can buy this share cheaply in the market. Okay, they are reasonable. Let them go and buy. That's I'm repeating. They will not get supply. There is only 25% stake listed for Safaricom. Some are already held by institutional shareholders who are not selling because they know the price is not the current one. They know the market does not represent the valuation. Just as Rea Vipigo 27.5 was not representing the valuation, which we ended up having 85 shillings. It is the same thing. Honorable Kirwa, thank you very much for the compliments. And I'm always very, very happy to see you, Honorable Kirwa. Very happy, and especially given the challenges that have been there. Seeing you healthy and good, we are all very happy for that. Again, many things are rotating around valuation. I think that is the valuation, because it's cutting across. The way to have valuation is to go to the markets. There is no way we are going to run away from that. You also talked something about these guys we are selling to are already inside. It's called information asymmetry. So they already know so much than I know. So they already know so much than the market knows. And the more the reason they actually held a celebration in SA to celebrate taking advantage of Kenya. To cure this, just expose Safaricom transaction into the international markets. Kenya will not lose time. We can only take 2 months. And as I said in my presentation, we will definitely get a higher value, maybe even from the same buyers. Honorable Maduku, I agree with you in terms of fees. There is the canon, even in stockbroking there is. But I think our business is not to encourage the people we are oversighting towards the ceiling. Our business is to push them towards the floor.